And I will start with the Honorable Gitonga Murungara. Let us limit our comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As regards the petition by Robert Wekesa, it does raise very serious issues against TSC, being unlawful deductions of their money to fund a union which they claim they are not members to. This is very important because deductions by TSC can only be through a check-off system where individual members have signed for that check-off. It cannot be because of a CBA between TSC, the NAT, and KUPPET as regards the third union and the authorizing teachers who are not members to join that union by force. Joining of trade unions is actually individual choices, and therefore, if there is any element of coercion or forcible entry into unions, that should be frowned against. This is a petition that should be looked into very seriously because our teachers are complaining. As regards the petition by Bernard Mokaya, which is on domestic credit, we have always had a problem with the domestic money lenders because, as we say, these are unscrupulous money lenders who actually deceive impecunious borrowers, borrowers who do not have money, and they have to go to these Shylocks so that they are able to get money for their immediate needs. We may require law to regulate this, but as whether credit professionals do exist, this must be studied. It's also a petition that must be looked into very quickly because we continue to have Shylocks getting money from impecunious money lenders at exorbitant interest rates. Thank you, Madam Speaker. These are timely petitions.
Member for Nyang.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And this petition relating to mistreatment of teachers by the Teacher Service Commission needs to be quickly looked into and urgently addressed, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Teacher Service Commission is known for its notoriety, and it has perpetuated certain ills to teachers that the petition committee, chaired by my friend Honorable Mbai, needs to get into the length and depth of it and have it resolved once and for all. Article 36 of our Constitution, Sabbatical 2, says that you cannot compel anybody to join any association, Madam Speaker. Whereas Sabbatical 1 pays credence to getting into any association of your choice, one cannot be compelled to join any. Therefore, it is a matter of right. It is a fundamental freedom that we enjoy. And therefore, TSC reading its ugly head on the affairs of teachers without their approval, giving a seal of approval on any kind of association must be nabbed. And the sooner we do this, the better, so that our teachers can have unfettered freedom that is being enjoyed by anybody else. Lastly, teachers handling special cases. And we all understand how difficult it is to handle children or students in general. But this is a special unit that is being handled by these teachers who are subjected to mistreatment by Teacher Service Commission. It is time that we woke up, realize how important and the critical role our teachers are playing to shepherd and shape up our children for the betterment of this country. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Before I give the next speaker, allow me to recognize students in the speaker gallery today. Number 1, Chereka Secondary School, Laikipia West Constituency, Laikipia County. Number 2, Muihoko Secondary School, Ruiro Constituency, Kiambu County. And number 3, the best 3 students from Kapsabet Girls from Mgwen Constituency, Nandi County. I also recognize in the public gallery today, Jamhuri Primary School in Kibra Constituency, Nairobi County, and Nyahururu Munyaka Day Secondary School from Laikipia West constituency, Laikipia County. On my own behalf and that of the House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. The next person to speak will be the member for Runyenjes, Honorable Eric Mushangi. He's not willing to speak to this. I'll give the next person, Honorable Robert Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the petition by Robert Wekesa on the issue of TSC and what it is doing to the members of the teaching profession. Madam Speaker, TSC actually did play a very major role in the destruction of the biggest trade union for teachers called NAT. 10 years ago, NAT was a giant, Madam Speaker. Right now, if you go to all over the country, find offices of NAT that have been shut, that they had maybe 20 employees, have been left with 1 employee. Some are gathering dust, some have been closed, some have been unable to pay even rent because of what TSC did. You know, my understanding of a tripartite agreement, Madam Speaker, is that there has to be the employer, and that is TSC, then the employee, that is the teacher, and then their union. How is it possible that TSC can purport to make a decision on behalf of the employee where the money is going to be taken to? Madam Speaker, I think TSC is trying to make it compulsory for teachers to be able to be in certain unions, which is totally against the law. So I think I want to support these employees of special needs education and say that TSC should immediately stop the deductions and refund all the money that has been taken. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The next chance will go to member for Endebess.
Madam Speaker, thank you for allowing me to contribute. This issue about KUSNET getting subscriptions from TSC of members without their consent. I think, Madam Speaker, it's a height of impunity by TSC. And as the committee looks into it, I think this is something that needs to be looked urgently by the committee. I know the petitions committee has a lot of petitions before it, but the chair is up to the task and the committee, and I would want them to expeditiously look into this petition to ensure that those injustices that have been committed against those teachers are corrected, and if possible, the person who was responsible for doing those deductions be subject for the sufferings of these people. And secondly, that person should even be dismissed from the service, because that is quite unprofessional. It borders on impunity, because you are occupying an office that you are supposed to take responsibility, yet you are abusing those powers. So this is an abuse of the office, and I think that we will be following very keenly to see what the committee recommends on this. And if it is possible, the Honorable Chair, you can submit a report to this House. We debate it and make sure that the House resolves some of those issues. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I support that petition.
Thank you. The minority leader.
Actually, I'd wanted to comment on the petition concerning the credit professionals, or what we call credit service providers. It's a timely petition, and if at all it is true that there is no law governing credit providers or credit professionals, then I think it is high time such a law was enacted. Because that lacuna can be very dangerous. As you know, Kenyans are going through very difficult times, financially, economically. Everybody is struggling to make ends meet. And therefore, many a time people resort to these credit providers, whom are vendors whom you don't really even understand where they're coming from or where they are going. And because of desperation, Kenyans are being subjected to very, very stringent conditions by these Shylocks, if I may call them so. So we need a law to govern the Shylocks, for lack of better terminology, and the credit providers generally, so that credit facilities can be managed in an environment with certainty and an environment which is predictable. Because, as you know, credit is a key factor in economic growth generally. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable KJ.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. A petition on the credit people who actually, in the real sense, are Shylocks, is actually very timely. And Madam Speaker, as the petitions committee is looking at this, I am hoping that they will be coming up with proposals that might lead to a legislation. Madam Speaker, predatory lending is so rampant in this country that if you looked around, you will see that there are people who are preying on the needs of Kenyans, on the desperation of Kenyans. People who lend money to people, knowing that these people who are borrowing are extremely desperate. What they then do is they put a very high interest to make sure that the person borrowing is not able to pay. After that, they come back and claim a property or auction out the borrower. Madam Speaker, we need a law that would be able to rein in on these predatory lenders. And I think that might have informed some of the moves that are being made by the government. For example, the Hustler Fund, Madam Speaker, that seeks to plug in into that space where predatory lending had even gone digital, Madam Speaker, that even reputable institutions were lending Kenyans in a predatory manner, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, even as we look at those informal ones, let us also go into the banks, see what banks are doing Kenyans. If you look at the newspaper, Madam Speaker, you will find 11 pages, acres and acres of properties being taken by auctioneers of Kenyans who are not able to do that. Madam Speaker, finally, allow me this 1 minute to say to the Petitions Committee that as they are looking on this petition, they should also consider the matters of infringement of laws that already exist. The laws like the Kenya Privacy Data Protection Bill, Madam Speaker, these creditors, these predatory lenders are offending the privacy of data owners in Kenya. The law on the computer misuse and cybercrime, the way they infringe on people's privacy, where they are claiming the money that they had lent to Kenyans, even that is an infringement on laws that exist. So even as we are looking on new laws, Madam Speaker, let us call them out for the laws that they are offending, laws that already exist. I appreciate this opportunity, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Malava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This issue of illegal deductions have appeared before our committee severally. The last time, Madam Speaker, there were quite a number of complaints about NAT deductions from members who are not willing to be members of NAT. And the TSC opened an online platform where it asked teachers who are not willing to be members of NAT to actually deregister. Many teachers actually deregistered from NAT. What has happened, Madam Speaker, we have some unscrupulous teachers who go around forming groups. And what happens, they collect signatures illegally from teachers not knowing that they are signing in for this kind of deductions. So I would ask that when we have this kind of persons who carry those lists of teachers whom they support to actually their organizations, pressure groups, the TSC should proceed, first of all, to open up a platform where they ask these teachers if they are really willing to be members of those particular pressure groups before they actually begin making those deductions. But in the meantime, Madam Speaker, I would urge TSC, just like it did with the NATS, it can open a platform today, because I know they are following these proceedings, and ask those teachers to deregister as the Committee on Petitions continues with the investigation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Navaholo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to make a comment on this petition by for TSC, where, Honorable Speaker, the issue that TSC keeps on detecting other teachers who are not really members is a key issue. And Madam Speaker, it's not just an issue of detecting non-members. It's an issue of being responsible in terms of what the functions that you are given. I want to state, Honorable Speaker, that the issue to do with deductions on teachers should be checked in terms of the holistic way in which TSC is handling teachers in full. Honorable Speaker, there is the issue to do with payment of teachers upon retirement. It's an issue. We need to look at it in totality so that, Honorable Speaker, it's not just an issue of deducting the issue of for the issue of the union. Madam Speaker, in terms of the profession on credit professionals, is timely, is due. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at the issues which the petitioner has raised, what is the function of a credit manager in any organization? Is a midwife between, Honorable Speaker, the spending of the funds and how the business aspires to grow in terms of the risk. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it's important. The people you rely on should be people who are controlled, people who are being checked, and people who can be trusted in terms of midwifing the functions of an organization and the government at large. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'll support the two petitions.
Member for Runyenjes, this is your second shot.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I want to react to the issue of the unscrupulous money lenders. Because, Honorable Speaker, in our country, we have very many young people who are being terrorized by these predatory money lenders. You go to the market, a motorbike that costs around 120,000. These predatory money lenders lend money to the young people who are trying to make ends meet at 120,000, but they are cost to pay the same motorbike up to a total of 250,000 or even 300,000. By the time they finish up paying the loan, the motorbike is already not functional. And so it is the same cycle of poverty that young people are being taken through by these lenders. So I am in agreement with the petitioner that these people are really terrorizing our people, and it's time that we rein on them through laws. And actually, this is what informed the coming up with the Hustler Fund, because this is now the cheap loan that young people are benefiting from. So, Honorable Speaker, I wish to support that petition. Let that petitioner be listened to, and let action be taken against these predatory money lenders. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chair for public petition. You have 2 minutes, just an assurance to the House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yeah, as I stand to support both petitions, I would want to assure this House that, yeah, the petitions may seem to be many flowing through the Speaker, but the committee is up to the task. We have gone ahead and done one very important thing. We have developed an online monitoring tool for members to track motions of the petitions of their interest. And this is at the table office. So any member who has a petition before the committee, you are in a position to track the position or the status of the petition. The other thing is I would encourage members, and some members have always come forward on petitions of their interest, to write, and specifically, if you want to be a friend of the committee during the interview of a certain witness, members, we would encourage that you are allowed to come in. We will allow you so that you can listen firsthand on what is happening. Lastly, Madam Speaker, we know these petitions are not just activism, but they are real issues touching on the lives of Kenyans. We are taking them serious, and our reports to the House are meant to correct the anomalies and the issues going on which are affecting our people. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the committee has not tired from visiting the constituencies of members, where a member has gone ahead and brought a petition which touches on a certain area within their constituency. The committee always purposes to visit that area, that certain place, so that they can assure the public within the constituency that their member has a petition in the House, and we listen to the public and assure them that the whole thing will be solved. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We're almost closing this one. Member for Thika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to speak briefly on the two petitions. First, to the union. The era of exploitation and intimidation is over. There's no way you can force somebody to give out money and don't want. Actually, me, I don't want to be very fair to them. They need to return that money and be surcharged for deducting that money when they were supposed to be doing it. They were supposed to be given an opportunity. If you don't want to do something, why do you force me association with you? So that's what the union is doing right now. It is forcing these teachers to give out that money, and also they're intimidating them in a way that if you don't do it, you're transferred far away from your home. So should stop immediately. It is bad and it is extremely awkward and unacceptable. They cannot do that at all at this era that you are forcing somebody to join your union. If these teachers have not seen the purpose or the reason why they should be in that union, why do you force me to do it? As for these renders, Madam Speaker, we have seen many of our people are suffering. Because at the end of the day, for those people who know about Shylock, they don't give you that money for you to return. They give you that money so that you'll be unable to return, because they know immediately they'll be able to come and take what they gave you twice. So without laws put to govern this lacuna, there's a lacuna left in that there's a big gap, and that's why they take advantage, because they know there's nobody who can question them. Because I know when I go to a Shylock, nobody forces me to go there. I go there because of the problems I have. Knowing that, they take advantage of it. So when you are giving you money, actually they encourage you to borrow as much as you can, knowing very well the interest they put on top, you will not be able to pay. As well as I also want to add, it is not only these renders, Shiro. Also, even our banks are using the same formula. They give you a loan at 10%. And at the end of the documentation, they put a small cross that they tell you the cross that you cannot be able to read properly because it is too tiny, it is too, and then that cross reads that they can increase interest as they wish. Right now, people are suffering because they took a loan at a very low interest rate, but right now it has been hiked. We should caution that and we should protect our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair, Education Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the petition. Madam Speaker, this petition is a tip of the iceberg. Workers across this country, in all sectors, have actually had problems with unions or institutions that collude with employers to deduct money from them. This is a pointer to what is affecting a number of civil servants, both in the public sector and the private sector. Madam Speaker, the union known as KUSNET, that has actually deducted money from the teachers, need to refund that money, but they also need to refund with interest because the teachers actually did not append their signature that they be deducted that money. And I want to say this, Madam Speaker, that this House, especially Labour, I've seen the chair Labour committees in this House, as a lesson to others who have not actually been pointed out. We really need to look at across sectors of government and even in the private sector, those organizations that deduct money legally from individuals and be such they be brought to book. I support and I ask the petitioner to the petition committee to take action. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. To close on this is the member for Lamu County. To close on this is the member for Lamu County, the Honorable Muthoni Marubu. Muthoni Marubu is doing her maiden speech. She will be heard uninterrupted and she will be heard in silence for a maximum of 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam
Order,
Speaker.
order. Honorable Omanyo, silence. Order, members. Honorable Junet, you're out of order. Member for Nyando, take your seat. Totally out of order. If you're leaving, leave using your feet, not your mouth. Honorable members, you will hear the Honorable Muthoni in silence and uninterrupted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my name is Muthoni Monica Marubu. I was born in the village of Kiongwe in Mpeketoni. I went to primary school in Ndeu Primary School, Hind Road. I went to Lamu Girls High School, and I pursued a degree in international relations, diplomacy, and foreign affairs in USIU. Madam Speaker, I have been on the list of shame of those members of parliament that have never spoken. And I take this opportunity to apologize to the people of Lamu for putting them on the papers for the wrong reasons. But Madam Speaker, I happen to be those students who are very average. I start very slowly. I remember, Madam Speaker, when I went to primary school, I scored 258 marks out of 500, quite average. I went to Lamu Girls High School, Madam Speaker, and I made it a B. And I went to university. I graduated with first class honors, Madam Speaker. I believe, Madam Speaker, even after starting very slowly, I will do the people of Lamu right. Madam Speaker, Lamu County is blessed with huge economic potential. It is a home to the Lamu Port and the Lapsset Corridor program, which, if implemented, Madam Speaker, would be very good for this country and for East and Central Africa. Madam Speaker, Lamu County has landmass of approximately 797 arable land and an industrious, resilient population. Our capacity to grow food, Madam Speaker, when the country is battling food insecurity is untapped. Our blue economy potential, Madam Speaker, also very untapped. We have very high potential, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this very promising future of our county have been put in jeopardy by two very serious issues. Number one, it is the ineffective land management. And number two, it is the recurrent cases of insecurity. Madam Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to dive a little into the history of Lamu so as to put perspective into my argument. Traditionally, Madam Speaker, before the invasion of the Arabs, Lamu was managed under the African customary land tenure system. There was no need for land adjudication, mapping, or titles. The community engaged in rotational subsistence farming and lived in small villages. Pre-colonial era, Madam Speaker, Lamu was colonized by the Arabs under the Sultanate of Zanzibar. When the Sultan came with his people, the rights of the people of Lamu ceased to exist. They did not have the right to own land. They were subjects of the Sultan. After the post-colonial era, Madam Speaker, the land became under the crown. Again, Madam Speaker, the rights of the people of Lamu were neglected and they were made to be squatters on their own land. After the colonization, Madam Speaker, the Jomo Kenyatta government negotiated terms with the Sultan and with the colonial masters, and again, the Lamu people remained to be squatters on their own land. Madam Speaker, in a Gazette notice of October 21st, 1983, under the Kenya Gazette number 4058, all unrelated land was declared to be government land. Madam Speaker,
in Lamu East Islands, Kiunga, Kiwayu, and Boni Forest, among other areas, the government continued to disfavor our people by displacing them from their ancestral land in favor of environmental conservation without relocating them or giving them any alternative land. After the promulgation of the new constitution, Madam Speaker, the responsibility to help the people of Lamu, the indigenous people of Lamu, acquire land was given to the county council. During this time, Madam Speaker, that all land, particularly in Lamu East, was subdivided into private ranches. Madam Speaker, all this while, nobody have ever cared about the indigenous people of Lamu, only those in power and the elites who have continued to take all the land and neglecting the people of Lamu. Madam Speaker, every time I introduce myself as a member of parliament for Lamu, people say, Mudhoni, why and what are you doing in Lamu? Because it is deemed, Madam Speaker, that Mudhonis are not supposed to be in Lamu. Madam Speaker, I was elected alongside 11 other members of parliament on an independent ticket. The Honorable Rahim of North Imenti, a constituency that is predominantly Meru community and Christian. Honorable Shakil Shabir of Kisumu East, a constituency that is predominantly Luo community and Christian. My colleagues are Kenyan of Indian origin and Islam faith. Madam Speaker, nobody questions what they are doing in Kisumu and Meru respectively. Madam Speaker, I do often ask myself, is it the case of the animal farm where all animals are equal and others are more equal, or is a conspiracy of fate for Mudhoni? Madam Speaker, in an ideal country, nobody should question what religion or tribe I come from. But my identity has been questioned, Madam Speaker, and I have sought to understand why don't I have the right to become like you, Madam Speaker, or the Honorable Jeanette, or the Honorable Rahim, or any other member that I can represent my county or my constituency without being put into questions. Madam Speaker, the original idea to have the Kikuyu settled in Lamu was born from a report by the then Director for Agriculture, the Lord Swinnerton, in a report of 1954, where the colonial government intended to improve agriculture in the country. They had resolved to put up settlement scheme, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, because I have mentioned that I'm a student of history, during this time, the Mau Mau detainees in Lamu Island, Manda Island, it was decided by the colonial masters that they shouldn't return them into where they had come from, but put them into Lamu so that they do not disturb the government or the colonial master and their interest as they go back into the country. Additionally, Madam Speaker, as I've mentioned, I'm a student of history, and I have to understand, like as the injustices were happening in Lamu, they were also happening across the country. The people where my ancestors come from were also dealt with the same fate, where their ancestral lands were taken by the colonial master and later by individuals who happened to be in government. Madam Speaker, those people were landless, just like the same people, the same way my people of Lamu have continued to be landless. Madam Speaker, it is during this time that after the Kenyatta government came in place, that a settlement scheme called Lake Kenyatta, measuring 34,000 acres, 137 was set in place. Madam Speaker, naturally, you would expect that people from the area would also be incorporated into the land. But when the time we measure, Madam Speaker, I don't know, is my middle speech, should I be worried about that?
Honorable Mudhoni, that is just a warning. When you see the amber, you have a minute, but I will give you a few more to finish.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, because Madam Speaker, I needed to put a case so that it can be understood why do we have a Mudhoni in Lamu. And also, I can speak into the killings that are happening in my county. Madam Speaker, it is understood when you talk to anybody, they will tell you the reason as to why we are being killed in Lamu, it is because we've taken over the land, it is because there is a Mudhoni member of parliament in Lamu. Bordering the Lake Kenyatta settlement scheme, there is, Madam Speaker, a number of private ranches. Number one, there is Nyongoro Ranch measuring 76,000 acres, TSS Ranch measuring 7,000 acres, Witu Livestock 14,000 acres, Kibokoni Ranch 6,725 acres, Nairobi Ranch 50,000 acres, and many others, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I mentioned, traditionally, Lamu was colonized by people who believed in slave trade. Up to date, those people still believe that some people are supposed to be their slaves, they're supposed to farm and give them food, and they're supposed to be serving them in the theme of servitude. Madam Speaker, please protect me from the Honorable Osoro. Madam Speaker, in 2014, I woke up to a pool of blood. I was an NCA in Peketoni village. 60 Kikuyu men were butchered, Madam Speaker. And what people have not understood clearly is that manner in which these people are being killed. Madam Speaker, they are being killed in a form of ethnic cleansing. And what is happening in Lamu, it is not Al-Shabaab, Madam Speaker. What is happening in Lamu is pure ethnic cleansing. Madam Speaker, ethnic cleansing is defined as forceful eviction of an ethnic community from a region. Madam Speaker, we have lost more than 200 men of Kikuyu origin in Lamu. I would speak in the same way if at all any other tribe was being killed in Lamu. Madam Speaker, the way we are killed is your hands are held like this, and your feet are held behind, and then you're slaughtered as your children watch. I'm asking, Madam Speaker, do we still serve the same, are we still in the same country? Are we protected by the same constitution? Because the constitution and the Bill of Rights get stopped when you're dealing with the Kikuyus in this country, Madam Speaker. Is it right to behead people? Who is going to protect the people of Lamu? Why are we dying aimlessly, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, I can no longer look into the widows. I can no longer look into the orphans, Madam Speaker. It is getting out of hand, and I'm afraid that somehow, somewhere, my people will turn against each other, Madam Speaker. It is very difficult to watch the widows. Madam Speaker, when you go into the night in Lamu, you are not afraid. You are not afraid of anything else. You are afraid that your time is up and you are going to be beheaded. I call upon the government, Madam Speaker, to please protect the people of Lamu. Recently, we lost the wife to an MCA. It was the MCA who was being targeted, and today MCA is disabled. The people of Wido, Poromoko, Hindi, Pandanguo, everywhere in Lamu, Madam Speaker, are afraid for their lives, Madam Speaker. It is not right just to have people dying just because they come from a certain community. We do not suspend the constitution just because people happen to be from a certain community. I am being told sometimes very senior government officials will tell me, your people are dying because you are in power. You are very ambitious, Mudhoni, that's why you are dying. Shall I not have the right to become anything in this country just because I am Kikuyu, Madam Speaker? Is it fair? Should it be like this? Who is going to protect me, Madam Speaker? My life is in danger, Madam Speaker. I spoke at a presidential function, and every day, Madam Speaker, I am receiving death threats on my phone. I'm being told, you will run to your home. Where is my home, Madam Speaker? Where do I belong, Madam Speaker? Where will I call home? And where will my children and my children's children call home if I am going to be killed in that kind of a manner, Madam Speaker? I call upon the government to seriously look into these issues. I know we elected a president under the hustler ticket.
Order, members. Order, members. Thank you, Honorable Mudhoni Marubu. Before we go to the next order, allow me to recognize guests in the speakers gallery. We have teachers from Kapranga Primary School, that is Keses constituency, was in Gishu County. We have Gashema High School from Lari, Kiambu County. And we have Sachangwan Secondary School from Morlo constituency, Nakuru County. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm holding brief for the Majority Leader. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, the Thursday, 5th of October, 2023. Number 1, the draft proceeds of crime and anti-money laundering regulations 2023 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. Number 2, the draft proceeds of crime and anti-money laundering assets and criminal assets recovery fund regulations 2023 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. Annual public debt management report for financial year 2022-2023 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. The annual performance report for the micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, credit guarantee scheme for financial year 2022-2023 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. Report of the Auditor General and financial statements on Nakuru Town West constituency for the year ended 30th June 2023 and the certificates therein. And finally, Honorable Speaker, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements on University of Nairobi Pension Scheme 2007 for the year ended 30th June 2023 and the certificates therein. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Chairperson, Parliamentary Committee on Lands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 5th October 2023. Report of Departmental Committee on Lands on, number 1, inquiry into the Del Monte Kenya Limited land TASO. Number 2, inquiry into the compensation of Basa Special Economic Zone, Dogukuru project affected persons. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, Parliamentary Committee on Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 5th October 2023. Report of the Departmental Committee on Education on 1, inquiry into the alleged malpractices in the 2022 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, KCSE examination. 2, a study visit to the World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnics held in Montreal, Canada from 24th April to 4th May 2023. 3, participation in a workshop on designing a framework for blended teachers held in Windhoek, Namibia from 27 February to 1st March 2023. And 4, its attendance to the 2022 International Education Conference held in Toronto, Canada, and on 13th to 16 November 2022. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Social Protection. Please, I think you're being distracted.
On social protection on its consideration of geriatric bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2022. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, 5th October 2023. A report of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs on its consideration of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2023. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chairperson. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Chairperson, Department Committee on Education.
Yes, hapo motion. Songa kidogo. Unajua na wewe naye nini umekaje? Yes. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Education on the inquiry into alleged practices of the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examination laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 5th October 2023. And I beg Honorable Maulu Injendi to second.
This Honorable Meli, you have been here long enough. It's a notice of motion. You don't need a seconder. The Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, notice of the following motion that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the inquiry into Del Monte, Kenya Limited Land Tussle, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 5th October 2023.
Before I give the next, recognize students in the public gallery, Kalisasi Primary School from Wingi Central, Kitui County, Kivandini Secondary School from Yata, from Narok South, Narok County. On my behalf and that of the House, we welcome you to the Assembly, and I will give an indulgence of 1 minute for the Honorable Member for Mwingi Central to welcome them.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to welcome all the schools which have come to visit Parliament, and in particular, the school I went to primary 2, Kalisasi Primary School, which is here at the gallery. Madam Speaker, I wish to welcome my school, Kalisasi Primary School. Feel welcome in Parliament, and you go home and greet your parents. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Mwingi Central, you just actually tried to campaign in this House by sending greetings. Honorable members, the next motion is by the member for Homa Bay Town, Honorable Peter Kaluma. If not in the House, the Chairperson Lands Committee, you are supposed to give 2 notices. Have you given them? The Chairperson for Lands Committee, you had 2 notices of motions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to give the second notice of the Departmental Committee on Lands on the inquiry into the compensation of Mombasa Special Economic Zone, Dogokundu project affected persons, laid on the table of the House, Thursday, 5th October 2023. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Kaluma, are you ready for your motion?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I move for adjournment of the House on a definite matter of urgent national importance regarding the proposed deployment of police to Haiti. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 33-1, I seek leave for the adjournment of the House for purposes of discussing a definite matter of urgent national importance regarding the intended deployment of Kenyan police to the Republic of Haiti on security intervention mission. Honorable Speaker, it has been recently reported in print and electronic media that the government of the Republic of Kenya is to contribute approximately 1,000 police officers to a multinational force to assist in Haiti as the country contends with widespread gang violence following approval by the United Nations Security Council. However, as a country, it is important to approach this issue with utmost questions that resonate with the primary duty of our National Police Service, which is to maintain internal security, law, and order. Service's primary duty is to protect its citizens against any internal threats. Honorable Speaker, it is vital to recognize the context of Haiti, plagued by decades of violent internal strife and a history of successful coups against its last 4 presidents. Backdrop adds a layer of complexity to Kenya's planned foreign intervention mission. We cannot overlook the unfortunate instances where Kenya police have encountered grave danger while combating insecurity on home soil. Regrettably, Honorable Speaker, the government has neither provided clear communication or explanation to Kenyans, nor their representatives in the National Assembly concerning the mission, the training of the police officers, the scope of their involvement in the mission, and most importantly, Honorable Speaker, the measures in place to ensure their safety and the well-being of their families. Of want, there is uncertainty as to whether the Republic of Haiti is a reciprocating country with the meaning of Section 107 of the National Police Service Act, so as to qualify for service of Kenya police officers, underscores the importance of national security, encompassing the protection of our territory and protection of our people. Since the country has